Hey guys, let's get straight to the point. The first camera that I've been using in the year 2023 is the Sony FX30. The first major reason why I love using this camera is the autofocus. It just works. I've been using this camera to film so many dance projects. As you know, in a dance video, most likely there will be multiple people and also it will be in like a fast action kind of scenario. And this autofocus just works. I would say 95 to 98% of the time, the autofocus would just focus on the subject that I want. If there are multiple people and I want to focus on a specific person, I can just tap to track that person and it will be really sticky compared to other brands. I've used like Panasonic, the autofocus is not the greatest. Fujifilm, it drifts, the autofocus drifts very easily even with one subject. So with this, I will have 95 to 98% of usable footage, which is amazing, especially when you're doing a project or if you're filming something that you cannot repeat or ask those people to do it again, let's say a wedding. This just works. The second thing I love about the FX30 is the ability to load custom LUTs onto the camera and show it on camera and also the monitor that you're using. This is really good because I love color grading and I have a custom or multiple custom LUTs that I load into the FX30 that I can show the clients and also my friends on set where the image is gonna look pretty much as the final product. That is really, really amazing. Everyone gets excited, everyone gets super happy saying that the colors coming out of the camera looks amazing already. That helps a lot, especially when you want to keep everyone motivated and positive on set. This is another really, really good feature. And another thing that I love using the FX30 is because this is an APS-C camera, not the FX3, that one is full frame, is because of the size. Yes, this is exactly the same size as the FX3, but the lenses that you can use on the FX30 is much smaller than the FX3. Yes, you can use APS-C lenses on the FX3, but it's just different. The image quality is different, but this one is native APS-C. That's why I have the Sigma 18 to 50 f2.8 lens on this camera. This is the first lens that I attached to the camera and it never, literally never leave the camera. I've been using this camera and lens combo. I never change a lens. It's the first lens that I attached to and it's always been there. And this combo with the Zhiyun Crane M3 gimbal here, it's good enough for almost all of my projects. And I will talk about this gimbal later, but this camera is super, super cool. Another reason why this camera is super good is because of the Sony Wireless Monitor app and also the Monitor Plus app that you can use with Sony cameras. Sony just came up with their own, but I've been using the Monitor Plus app and it's been amazing because it's completely wireless. I don't need to use an HDMI cable and I don't have to have cables like going in and out of my camera and that's super clunky. And besides monitoring the image using the Monitor Plus app, I can just hand the app on my phone to the client or to my friends and they can just watch the feed, the camera footage on the phone without following me behind my back when I'm filming. That's super cool. And they get excited when they can see the image on a mobile device. The only downside of using a wireless app is you cannot play back the images or you cannot play back the footage on the app, probably because of the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth capability. So if you want to play back the images or like footage on the wireless device, you still need a wireless HDMI video transmitter like the Axun and also the HoloLens wireless transmitter that I've been using. But recently I've been like downsizing my gear so I don't have to carry so much. I've been using the wireless app on my iPhone and it's been working so far. I just cannot play back the footage, but they can still see the live feed, which is amazing. And of course, you can use it to monitor your footage while you're filming, so you have like a separate angle without having to have cables like dangling and stuff. So that's super cool, that's amazing. With the FX30, the 10-bit 422 footage is so good to color grade with because it's more rugged, it's more sturdy, it's not gonna break that easily. And that is great because if you want to color grade your footage to make it not like real life, more like in a movie and stuff like that, 10-bit 422, it's amazing to work with. I think that's kind of the minimum if you want to color grade your footage to look like completely different from real life, from set, that when you're filming. So 10-bit 422 is super good, especially on Sony cameras. I just want to quickly talk about that Sony color science still is not the best. For some reason, they have this thing where they have the yellow color closer to green and green closer to yellow. They're beside each other if you look at the color spectrum. So yellow going towards a little bit more green, and then green going towards a little bit of yellow. That makes it super weird. Like, people's skin tone has yellow sometimes, like, and it will shift a little bit towards the green side, which is not the healthiest skin tone that you can have. And then green, when you're filming something outside, you see like trees and bushes and like leaves, they don't look green, they look yellowish. So what I've been doing is, in my color grading software, I use DaVinci Resolve mainly, but you can do this on like Adobe Premiere and also Final Cut Pro, is to use the HSL curves, which is the hue versus hue curve, and you just pull the yellow back towards a little bit of the orange, which shifts the yellow back to yellow, and then green from yellow back to green, which is a little bit more towards the cyan side. It actually helps making the color much better. That also works with other Sony cameras. So try that and it will look amazing. So that's what I've been using on the FX30 footage. Another plus of using the FX30 is the Catalyst Browse software. Yes, not a lot of people like using it because it degrades your footage a little bit, but that is good for emergency. I sometimes been asked to film something when I have this like my FX30 carrying around with in my bag, and I don't have a gimbal. I can still film with stabilized footage after. The only thing you need to make sure is you need to film a little bit wider than you want, because Catalyst Browse will still crop in a little bit. What I found is 10% is kind of a sweet spot. If you're cropping more than 10%, the footage starts having these like weird jumps. And also in the brightest part of the image, where the brightest part and the darkest part meets, like let's say like a light bulb, it will flicker and like jump. So 10% is about right, and you still have to carry your camera or hold onto your camera carefully. So it's not like 100% gonna save your footage, but it's still something that you can use as an emergency backup, which is amazing compared to other cameras which don't have it. Unless you're using a Panasonic camera with really good IBIS, Catalyst Browse is really good. Another thing you should do with Catalyst Browse is to sharpen your image after. Let's say if you're filming in 4K, it will degrade your footage to look more like a 1080p. You just need to add a little bit of sharpness in post and it will look nicer. For example, if you're filming in 1080p, let's say on my Sony ZV1, I will have to add in sharpness after using Catalyst Browse, because the image will look a little bit more like 720p after. That's the only downside, but other than that, most people, if they're viewing the footage on their phones or like on iPads or like anything like with a smaller screen, no problem at all. I'm not worried about it. Catalyst Browse works really well with Sony cameras. The last thing about the FX30 that I like is cheaper body and cheaper lenses. This is not an FX3, different sensor kind of setup, not a stack sensor, so rolling shutter is still there, but I don't do like whip panning like too much, so that's not a huge problem. But then the body itself is cheaper, it's super good if you are starting, and also the lenses can be cheaper. I literally just use this lens. I have a couple of full frame lenses that I use for, with my Sony a7 IV before, but I never put them on here because I don't need full frame lenses. They're a little bit bigger, and this setup is super good and not that expensive. Lenses can be super expensive. So FX30, Sigma 18 to 50, f2.8, my favorite combo for video projects. The second camera gear that I used the most last year or 2023 is, of course, the Sigma 18 to 50. This is a super versatile lens. Full frame equivalent is around 27mm to 75mm in terms of focal length, but f2.8 is still f2.8. Of course, it's gonna be used on APS-C sensor, so low light, it's not gonna be as good as a full frame equivalent. and the bokeh is not going to be as blurry, of course, but it's totally fine. With video projects, I don't blur out the background completely because I want people to see the background and all the setup and stuff. That's why you film on set. And this lens, no complaint at all. It's made out of plastic, but it's still really durable. I take good care of my gear. I don't like bang them around. So this is a really nice and small compact lens. Yes, when you zoom in and out, it will extend, so keep that in mind. Another really good thing for videography using this lens is it doesn't have focus breathing, almost. Like, I've never seen focus breathing on this lens. So it doesn't zoom in and out while it's like pulling focus from the closest to the furthest. So it's really, really good. The only thing is the barrel distortion, which looks a little bit more fisheye when it's at its widest, is a little bit distracting. But if you are doing video projects like myself, I tend to have, let's say, a 2:1 aspect ratio or even 2:3:5 aspect ratio. So the top and bottom is like covered by black bars anyways. So it's not gonna be too obvious, but I try to avoid filming it at its widest. Barrel distortion, a little bit distracting, but this focal length, super versatile, 27 to 75. I don't need anything that is like wider than this. If I need something wider than this, that means like maybe I should have like more room and like move things around on set instead of using a wider focal length, because most of them should have a pretty distorted look that I don't personally like. I usually stay on 24 or 28 millimeter to have a normal kind of focal length, wideness, and then 50, which is 75 millimeter full frame for the compression, which is super, super nice. So this combo, Sigma 1855, 18 to 50 f2.8 lens, super nice. The next camera that I've been using in the past year in 2023 is the Fujifilm XPro2. Actually, I've been using this for like more than 2 years now. This camera is super good for photography, but I did make a video about the XPro2 video capability. It's still really nice. It's just not something that you would use for like projects, but it's still really good for like short clips and B-rolls and stuff. This camera is amazing. I've been using this for portrait photos, mainly portrait photos. Yes, you can of course do street photography with this, but I've been using another camera for that. I will talk about that later. The colors, Fuji colors are just, I've never seen something better than this, like with the cameras that I've used before. So the color straight out of the camera is super nice. I can just have a recipe set up and saved on my camera, and then I can just use the straight out of camera images. And my friends, my clients, they've been super happy with them. No complaints. They literally use the straight out of camera JPEGs. I don't like editing, so that's super cool. And even if you want to edit the photos straight out of camera, the JPEGs, it's much easier to do that than having to fidget or like fiddle with the color science. That is really hard to make them look nice. So straight out of camera JPEG, super cool. I've been color grading, or not color grading, but editing, coloring the JPEGs. It's fine. You just need to get the look that you want and expose it a little bit more carefully instead of relying on raw. I don't like relying on raw images because you don't know what you're gonna get until you are back on your editing like desk. So that's why this has been amazing. X-Trans 3 sensor on the XPro2. I know it's a little bit more confusing. It has a really nice look without being too clinical, not super crazy sharp. It doesn't like 3D pop your subject out of the background, which is something that I don't really like anyway. So X-Trans 3, one of my favorite sensor. I think my favorite one is still the X-Trans 2, but this one has more megapixels, so I can crop in a little bit more. Another cool thing about this camera is the lenses, of course. Fujifilm lenses, I've been using the older ones. You can see this is the 35 f1.4. Super nice lens. Yes, autofocus not super quick, but then it has a great character with the focus and out of focus fall off really nicely. It's super smooth. It doesn't have like a clinical cutout. And also it has the character of the bokeh kind of swirly on the corner, which makes it really nice for portrait photos. And it covers around 50 millimeter full frame equivalent, 50 something. And that's pretty good for a normal focal length. Of course, I wish I have something a little bit wider for a specific situation, but this is definitely gonna cover most of what you need. You can do environmental portrait or like street photos, and of course, close-up portrait is so nice. The background just melt away. So this lens, another really amazing gear that I've been using with the XPro2. 56 f1.2, this is one of the first Fujifilm lenses that I got. This is really like beat up. I got this like a little bit cheaper than the nicer condition one, but optically this is still flawless. This lens is amazing for portrait photos because it literally melts the background and makes everything super blurry because of the f1.2 aperture. And if you want something like that, this is good. This is good for a busier background or kind of environment portrait where you don't want people to see that much of the background. This is super handy, and you can't really take bad pictures with this unless you're too close to the subject or you don't have enough space, then yes, of course. But then image quality, this with the XPro2, my favorite combo for portrait, 35 1.4, portrait and other uses, street photos. Yeah, I love this combo. The next camera that I've been using in 2023 a lot actually is what's filming us, the Sony ZV1. This camera surprised me so much because it's so easy to carry around. I can just put it in my like any kind of bags pretty much, like even a fanny bag, a fanny pack, it will fit. Another thing is it is super easy to use. I can have custom settings saved in like M1, M2, M3, 3 different modes. I wish there's more, but 3 modes is good enough for most situations, and I can just jump into that mode and then hand it to my friends. I bring this to dance classes all the time. I capture dance class footage for my friends, and they've been so happy about the videos. And it's super easy to use. As I said, it has lens stabilization, which is the optical stabilization, which is nice because if you hand the camera to your friends and family where they don't know if they can hold the camera steadily, this lens stabilization is super good to stabilize most of the footage. And of course, it can use catalyst browse to further stabilize the footage if you need to, which is good. Like if I don't have my FX3 around, I can still use the Sony ZV1 and it will still look stabilized. The only thing is, of course, as I said, you have the sharpened image when you're using catalyst browse with any Sony cameras. That's the only thing. Also, this camera captures like really nice footage. Yes, 8-bit, it's not the sturdiest footage or Kodak that you can have when you're color grading footage, but you shouldn't color grade it too much. But then if you need to do some color grading, it can still handle some creative choices. So I have no complaint whatsoever at all. And because it's so tiny, I can have really nice footage whenever I am like out with my friends and family, and I don't need to worry about like having to carry a camera bag for a specific camera that I need to use. So this is super good for that kind of stuff. And of course, it's really good for content creation. I've been filming with the Sony ZV1 for like the past year already. It's been like nice. I am only filming in 1080p and I'm just upscaling it to 4K and added like a little bit of sharpening because I want to save some space on my SD card. And it's good. Battery life, not the best, but it lasts pretty long actually. I have a second battery that I purchased. I think the only time I need 2 batteries is when I am filming using the ZV1 for an actual project. Yes, I did not bring my FX30. Battery life on that, super good. But for ZV1, if you are filming something a little bit longer than an hour, definitely bring a second battery. The Sony one has a charging case that comes with the battery, which is super nice. So definitely consider that. But the ZV1, super good for pretty much anything. The focal length, super nice. Wide angle, wide enough. Anything wider than that is gonna be a little bit goofier. The closest, the tightest focal length is super good with the compression. So really, really good. The only thing that I can think of that is not the best is, of course, the low light performance. This is a 1-inch sensor camera, so don't go anything higher than 1600. I would say 1600 ISO is for emergency. 1200 easily passable. I can use the denoiser in DaVinci Resolve and everything will still look really, really good. So highest ISO 1200, that's something I would recommend. And yeah, this camera, I have not much complaint. I just love using it. I'm still using it. I'll still use it in the year 2024. I totally forgot to mention, of course, it has Sony autofocus. It's still really, really good with older camera firmware like the Sony ZV1 is still really, really good. It's just amazing. It works. That's it. Like I want something that works. So you don't have to worry about that. Autofocus, super, super nice. Another quick downside of using the Sony ZV1 is actually the photo side. Not good in low light, super noisy, even at like 1200 ISO. So don't use it in low light. It doesn't have a flash, so maybe attach a flash on it. And the colors are Sony colors. Not my favorite, but you can still work with it. But this one, if I can only keep one camera for now, I would say the Sony ZV1 will definitely be at the top of the list because of the versatility and also the size. It's super compact. With the cage, it's still really, really, really good. The next camera that I've been using in 2023, I actually just got this like maybe about 3 months ago. It's the Ricoh GRIII. I've been loving using this camera because it's super tiny, super small. I can fit it in my jacket pocket, not pants pocket, like not jean pocket, especially. I don't know how people fit this in there. But then this is still much smaller than a lot of smaller cameras. Let's say this Fujifilm X100V. This is tiny, so you can carry this without any problem. You don't get tired carrying this. And this is really important because especially for street photography cameras or like a camera in general that you want to use all the time, you want it to be small. You want to be able to carry this, or else, trust me, you will start having this like feeling of like, I don't want to carry the camera, and then you start taking less pictures. I've been using this for like a little bit more than 2 months only, and like 4,000 photos, close to 4,000 photos taken on this camera. I've done portrait photo sessions with the GRIII, and it's surprisingly good. Like image quality, super nice. Yes, it's 28mm, a little bit wider than a lot of people would use regularly on portrait sessions, but it's creative. I think it's a really creative focal length where like it looks a little bit wider than usual, so you can do some creative shots with this. And also the ability to use flash with this camera is amazing. It's super easy. You don't have to worry about like the sync speed of your shutter speed with the flash, nothing, because it's a leaf shutter camera, so you can use it at like pretty much at all the shutter speed, so you just need to have a flash. That's why I've been using a newer, really cheap wireless flash. It can be attached to the camera, but it's bigger than the camera, so I don't do that. But it has a wireless trigger that I can use, so I can use off-camera flash to have this really creative look. I've been using this setup for like 2 Christmas parties, and they've been really nice. Like the flash, as long as you know where to angle the flash and set the power manually, then you will have no problem whatsoever. And people have been loving the images coming out of this camera. And talking about image quality, this has a really nice and amazing, like surprisingly good black and white mode. I've been using the high contrast black and white mode for portraits and also street photography. It's super nice. It has like grain built in already, so it looks super good straight out of the camera, so you don't really have to do much about it, and people will be happy about it. I've been using my own kind of recipe on the GRIII for different situations. I have one for portrait, and I combined it with the Snapseed app on my phone to create this more film-like kind of images. And I have one for like instant photo kind of recipe, again combined with Snapseed to come up with the image quality that I want. The only thing is I need to have this kind of combination. The straight out camera images are great, but they look like digital photos still, so I will have to edit them. I edit the JPEGs, by the way. I don't edit the RAW, because the RAW, like I think the colors coming out of the JPEGs is really good, so I don't really need to play around with the RAW. Yep, GR3, super versatile, and I love carrying this camera around. I have this like half case on it, so it looks nicer. Some more minor good things about the GR3 is the ability to save custom settings, and where I'm talking about like all the settings in camera can be saved in your custom modes, which is amazing. This is definitely one of the most customizable and savable customization cameras that I've ever used. You can literally save everything down to like metering, white balance, exposure, compensation. You can save them in your custom mode. So this is really, really cool. One last thing I want to talk about the GR3 that makes me want to use it more is people feel less nervous around a small camera like this. With a big DSLR or like a big mirrorless with like a huge lens, of course that's different focal length. People tend to get a little bit more nervous, especially if they've never been in front of the camera before, like professionally. So this is super cool. You can use this for like behind the scenes stuff. This is super fun. People don't get nervous. People don't really take you seriously. And even when you're using it for street photography, this is really good because like this is like a tiny camera. People are not gonna be like, oh, like, are you taking a picture of me? So super fun, super easy to use, and people feel happy when I have this camera around. The next camera gear that I want to talk about is actually not a camera. Yes, I've been talking about cameras, but this guy. This is the Crane M3 from Zhiyun, and I was sent out. I was sent this gimbal from Zhiyun, thank you. But I love this gimbal so much. I've been using this so much with my cameras, mainly the FX3, not the FX3, FX30, and also the Sony ZV1. I don't know where I'm pointing. The Zhiyun Crane M3, super powerful considering the size of the gimbal. This is tiny. I can fit this thing in like a sling bag, even my fanny pack. I have a wider one that I can fit this in there with the ZV1, and I can walk around with a fanny pack and a gimbal to have stabilized footage. Super versatile, super powerful. It can handle the FX30 with the Sigma 18-50 f2.8 lens. Yes, I'm pushing the limit a little bit, but then it was still able to handle the weight. I think there were only like maybe 3 times when the gimbal was kind of shaking for a little bit at certain angle when I was using this combination, but that's it. Other than that, super like powerful that I can just literally use this combo. And one more thing about this gimbal setup and the camera that I've been using is you can film in portrait orientation pretty easily. It has a portrait orientation, unlike the bigger gimbals where you have to slide the camera out and then like reattach the camera onto the gimbal to get that orientation. It rotates to portrait orientation already built in with the mode. So super fun. Something if you do like portrait videos. I don't usually do portrait videos, but if you do, it has the mode for it. So super versatile. To be honest with you, I can definitely just have the FX30 and Sigma 18-50 and the Crane M3, and that's it. That's all I need for video projects, unless some clients, they want to see a bigger setup. Yes, I had that request before. They want a bigger setup so the clients feel a little bit more like valued. I don't know what that means, but yes, unless that's something you want to do to impress your clients or friends. If not, this combo, it's good enough for most of the stuff. At least for me, like all my video projects can be done with this combo right here. Stable enough footage and good color codec, and yeah, that's it. Sometimes bigger doesn't mean better, especially when it comes to like camera gear. The last camera gear that I want to talk about, but not yet in detail, is this little guy right here. This is the Canon Powershot A560 digital camera. I've been looking into this like digital camera or older digital camera kind of field recently, and it is a rabbit hole. I've been taking photos with this little camera. I want to try to see how it feels when you are using an older camera like these ones, and what the CCD sensor is all about, like the image quality and stuff. But I will definitely make more videos about digital cameras or older digital cameras and see if like I can make some good content out of these. But these are super fun to use, just to keep it short. Cheap, tiny cameras that you can use, and yeah, the images are surprisingly good. I might put some photo samples in this video to show you guys the images that I've been getting from this tiny camera, and I have another camera coming as well, like also an old digital camera that I will talk about. So stay tuned and I will talk about these in the future videos. That's it. These are my cameras and the camera gear that I've been using in the year 2023. I love every single one of them for different purposes, and I will continue using them in 2024. I don't get sent cameras like these and lenses like often, like especially cameras. I've never been sent a camera. So I bought these with my money, except the Crane M3. So this is my really honest experience using these cameras. If you have your favorite cameras or gear that you like using in the year 2023 and you want to share with us, leave them in the comment section below. Or if you have similar cameras or setup, let us know in the comment section below and let us know how you are using them. This is the setup that I've been using, and this is the setup that I would love to use in the year 2024. That's it. Thank you so much for watching this long and unscripted video. And I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and I hope that I will be making more content with these amazing tools in the year 2024. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Oh my foot. Oh, my leg. It fell asleep.